So I wanted to give an example of a small jurisdiction during doing a social marketing project when we have zero staff, zero budget, making things up and still managing to get some success. Um, Skagit has a stormwater program. It is very small. At the time the last permit started, it was just 2 staff. We had limited budget. I was not even on that staff. I'm in a different program, but they needed help with outreach, so I was helping. Limited outreach, limited experience. Um, so we decided we wanted to work in Big Lake. It's a big lake. It's right there. It's got around 700 homes. We're very creative with our site names. Everything from large McMansions to old cabins that have been converted to full-time homes. It's got a history of toxic algae blooms, so we were really interested in hitting that aspect, that toxic algae bloom sort of thing. So we decided we wanted to do something about fertilizing your lawns because there are some big houses, some fancy houses, lots of people living on the shoreline. COVID hit. I had lots of time to do research all of a sudden. And so I did an extensive literature review. I'm happy to share it with everybody. Asking, so looking at different programs from around the country, why people fertilize, what's their driver, how do they fertilize, what programs are out there that were successful, that were not successful. And then after that, we did a survey of about 700 residents to see what their practices were and how their attitudes matched. And I actually did a presentation on this 2 minicons ago, like during COVID. And I'm happy to share that information with you. We settled on one goal to skip fertilizing the lawn in spring. So a lot of the social marketing, a lot of the the yard care campaigns that you see out there hit like all of the different things. Social marketing says pick one behavior. I had the capacity to do one behavior. So one behavior is skip fertilizing your lawn in the spring. We had 3 reasons for that. We wanted to capitalize on the community's concern for lake water quality. They were concerned about algae blooms already. And so, if we could tie the fertilizer to algae blooms logically, really easily, we wanted to draw that direct connection between fertilizing and lake water quality. And we also really wanted to have a sense of humor because let's be honest, during COVID, everybody was ton with sad messages. And sad messages don't work. Like we've already got lots of experience about boring messages not working. So I modeled the campaign off of a program in Florida called Be Floridian. It was hilarious and fun. It was targeted at people basically who had moved from New York and were acting like New York and Florida and fertilizing like crazy. And so I thought, let's protect fun. Why do we want to not fertilize? Why do we care about this area? We care about this area because it's beautiful. We care about this area because we're boating and swimming and like enjoying it. They want to protect their lake. They tell me that they want to protect their lake. So let's talk about fertilizing in the aspect of protecting your fun. And so I came up with some fun social media. That's some themes here. Instead of fertilizing, you could be lugging bags of fertilizer around if you really want, or you could take a nap. You could go fishing. You could play with your kids. And so, I really wanted to lean hard into doing all the things that you want to do around a lake. As I mentioned before, we didn't have a budget for this work, so we really needed to keep it cheap, like really, really cheap, and use as little of our staff time as possible. So I scheduled 3 social media posts in spring. I discovered they have a really strong Facebook group in the Big Lake community, and so that was great. The downside of that is I couldn't split the lake and do pilot testing, on either side to see if things were different. So the whole pilot testing part of social marketing just kind of fell by the wayside. Oops. But I scheduled 3 Facebook posts in the spring and sent out 3 postcards in the spring. And then I did it again in fall. So I talked in fall about fall being the best season to fertilize. So my thought process was if people are fertilizing in the spring and then it rains and that goes into the lake and creates algae blooms. And so that's more or less, the different things that I was telling people. So yeah, spring outreach fertilizer focused on describing how fertilizer gets in the water, what its effects are, and the fact that leaving clippings on the lawn is a different way of fertilizing. So I did keep it like a couple of different aspects of natural yard care. Our fall outreach focused on how to fertilize right, using slow release fertilizers, not fertilizing before a big storm, and getting a soil test. I never took a screenshot of the website, apologies, but I created a website to go with it. It talked about, just all more words. It had a lot more words, more pictures, how to do soil sampling, kind of all the resources that you want people to have in case they wanted to go there. We also added an online pledge aspect. Again, it was COVID. Nobody was allowed to do in-person outreach. And in Big Lake, there's nowhere to do in-person outreach, really. We tried. It didn't work anyway. But we tried an online pledge just to see if it would work. We had literally 3 people take it in the first year. And so we ditched the online pledge. We tried a little giveaway too, that it was not interesting enough. So we felt like we had a good start. In years 2 and 3, I had actually a budget. I talked the boss into like this much of a budget. I was very excited. We decided to continue with the social media and the mail outreach. We cut the pledge. And we wanted to partner with Washington State University Extension shore stewards because the people told us that they trusted the Conservation District and Washington State University Extension. Nobody cares what government thinks, which is why we use trusted messengers. We had big plans for shore stewards. We wanted them to include our stuff in their materials. We wanted them to offer free lawn soil tests and outreach to those who were going to fertilize. We wanted them to work with stores to label fertilizers as fun-friendly. And then we talked to them and discovered their program barely exists and they don't have the capacity to do hardly any of that. But they were interested in trying that, offering free lawn soil tests and outreach to those who fertilize. So we worked on a contract, and it really wasn't a successful partnership. Because they didn't have much management, our whole goal was to like just download that part of our brains onto them and let them do the things. Their staff went and did their own thing. It was unfortunate. We actually think, people were agreeing to do soil tests, not because they planned to fertilize, but because they wanted to support WSU. And so when you get a test back that says, oh, you might need fertilizer, we think that might have actually encouraged people to fertilize when they might not have. We missed some opportunities for messaging because they weren't kind of doing what we asked them to do. So did the program work? Despite our failures of the pledge, yes, it did work. So this is statistically significant, which if you were in the survey workshop yesterday, you know that means something. We had a statistically significant decrease in fertilizing once during the spring. So we asked them, did you fertilize in the last year? Did you fertilize during spring? How many times did you fertilize? And you can see we had a really big increase in the number of people who didn't fertilize at all, and a drop in the number of people who fertilized. Did I say that right? You get it. It's the end of the day. And what was really, I think, most impactful for this project is we asked why you fertilize your lawn, or if you don't fertilize, why not? And we asked in both the pre and post survey. In the pre-survey, you see on the was that the left side? Most people said they wanted their lawn to be healthy, but there were almost no comments for people who didn't fertilize their lawn. On the post survey, we got a ton of comments, basically telling us our messaging right back. So I can tell you for sure that people were reading our postcards and reading our social media comments, because suddenly everybody is fertilizing because it's not needed, like for all these other reasons. Which felt really good, even though a lot of people in Big Lake already don't fertilize, but I feel like we gave them a reason to continue not fertilizing. And I think that's important. How much did it cost? Our mailings was about $2,500 a year. My time to put together the social marketing or the social media. Anna's time to put together the social media once we got Anna, which she's amazing. The shore stewards was kind of expensive, would absolutely cut that. So in total, You know, it was a 3-year project, ended up costing maybe $32,000 plus my time. My time's not added in there. Um, but it was a really cheap project, honestly, for a very small staff and starting with zero budget. And it worked. Lessons learned, pick a big enough area that you can pilot test, because we had to just kind of skip the whole pilot testing. We thought about doing some other lakes in the area, but the demographics aren't the same between our lakes. Um, Put facts in the social media post. People aren't going to click, and Facebook doesn't like it when you try to, send people to a website elsewhere. So put your facts in the social media post, because people are going to read that, or if they're going to read it, they'll read that, but they're not going to go to the web page. It's very few people actually made it to that web page. Pick your partners well and make sure there's oversight. And even a small project is a big lift, because frankly, that was a lot of work. And I'm almost glad that I had COVID and a lot of time to mess around with. And that's it.
Thank you.
So, in all of our stuff, we're always telling people to do organic fertilizer. Knowing our community, I didn't want people to dismiss us as granola munching hippies. And what matters more for this is slow release fertilizer. And so in all of our stuff, I said, if you're going to fertilize, use slow release fertilizer. And the image that I showed on the website page was actually, I was trying to teach people how to read a fertilizer label and understand what's slow release and what's not. And a lot of organic fertilizers, you can't have phosphorus in a lawn fertilizer. But also a lot of fertilizers have pictures of lawns on them, but don't say lawn fertilizer and say organic. And so I also didn't want people putting fertilizer down that might have phosphorus on it, thus running into the lake, and kind of create that issue. So yeah, I didn't want to judge people. I didn't want to be a granola munching hippie.